Welcome to Game Design Hour, the podcast where I sit down and talk with the people behind the video games you love. On today's episode, I'm interviewing Greco and Domenico Gallo about both of their work on the video game Blackwind. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to let you know about today's sponsor, Hoffman's Woodstuffs. They specialize in the design and fabrication of custom furniture made from reclaimed or sustainably sourced hardwoods. They also make custom goods and gifts for any occasion. You can find them on Instagram at Hoffman's Woodstuffs, or you can go and check out their website, hoffmanswoodstuffs.net, using the link in the description. Let's get into the interview. When did you first realize that you wanted to make video games?
Personally, I was 14. I started with Commodore 64 back in the 80s, and then I moved to the Amiga one. And then when the PC came into the gaming world, I started programming, and then I joined other companies.
For me, it was later. I worked in the 3D industry for pre-rendered contents, and then I meet Manlio in our previous work in another company.
When we both worked for another company, we met there.
And I was introduced to this world, and it was a shock for me. And I fall in love with this kind of 3D, real-time 3D.
How did the original idea for Blackwind originate?
Blackwind was originally mixed between two different kind of games, because we already had the opportunity to make an hack and slash. We previously developed Wartech Fighters, another game, and that was a sci-fi game with giant robots in space. So we wanted to mix sci-fi and the hack and slash genre to have something more peculiar. We came up with the basic story of Blackwind, a teenager trapped inside a very powerful battle frame. This was the original idea.
How long did you spend working on the story of Blackwind in comparison to the gameplay?
So this is a different thing, because we usually were on the story and the gameplay inside the studio. But for this title, we had an external writer. We gave her the basic story, and then she developed all the single events and the dialogues and how the story basically develops throughout the games. Of course, we followed and gave hints and directions to her. So basically, we can say that the story was developed in parallel with the gameplay.
What were some of the biggest inspirations behind Blackwind? Maybe movies, TV, books?
When to start from? Blackwind is full with references. There are lots of references to other movies or other games. First of all, some aliens references in terms of troopers, vehicles, or the design of some armors, or basically the same places in the indoor levels. A bit of an alien mood, like something lurking in the dark. There are also other references.
Many references to 80s movies, such Ghostbusters, and all we like in sci-fi movies and television shows, like Star Trek.
A bit of Doctor Who.
For the gameplay, we referenced also a lot of other games we liked.
Yes, mainly Darksider series, the first and the second. They are, for us, very good games because they incorporate a lot of different gameplay phases or actions. Also, a bit of exploration and platforming from other games. It can be described exactly like a game we took inspiration from, but there are many others. Basically, all the other games we played.
How large was the team that worked on Blackwind?
Very small indeed. Actually, the two of us and another 4 people, at least in the core team. One is a script writer, and the person that helped us with building the levels and the puzzle in the levels and the platforming. His name Marco. Another one, the guy from Germany, basically made all the animations. We also had partnered with 3 voice actors, and that did basically the voice acting.
And Chiara for the illustrations.
The illustrations in the intro, and if you finish the movie, the final scene, and that basically drawn on all the 2D art.
But we can say that the only two persons worked constantly on the full project are we.
Okay, but there also
from the start.
in animation. Okay, we worked more than the others because we basically started the project. So we also made all the pre-production phases and all the final steps that lead to the actual publishing of the game
And the patches.
So we already worked, and we're still working on patches and fixes when someone basically says this thing doesn't work as expected. You can basically count six-person team, but we are the two main developers and the other four.
Are you able to walk me through the process of how you created the puzzles?
When we approached to this kind of game that includes puzzles, because we took inspiration from Darksiders. Darksiders is an action slash that also uses a lot of puzzles, even stronger and harder than the Blackwind ones. We had many basic actions and kind of things you can do. For example, you can pull a lever and a door opens, or you can step on a plate and the plate opens something or activate something, or you can have a force field blocking the way, and the force field is what we call an activator. It can be activated by anything else, such as a lever, a plate, or an action by the game, a shooting switch, something you can shoot and switch operates. So you can have elevators that pull something up or down. And timed actions, like you can pull a lever, something happens, and after a certain amount of time, it resets the initial state. And combining all these simple actions, simple functions together, you can put a very complex puzzle. There are some puzzles in the forest levels in Blackwind that are quite complicated, because you can also use the drone that does the touch from the player's back, basically, and you can put the drone in a place, and you are in another place, so you can act in two places basically at the same time. If you play in co-op mode, you can actually play at the same time. So we also have to make sure all the puzzles can be done with the co-op mode and be actually playable. There is a lot of back and forth in the single player mode from the main battle frame and the drone. Basically, combining all these aspects together, you can build from simple to very complicated puzzle to solve.
Were there any big or interesting bugs that you and the team came across while working on Blackwind?
Where to start from? Bugs, yes, of course. I can actually don't remember one specifically, but some camera moving awkwardly in some cases, or when
in the co-op mode,
especially in co-op mode, or the finisher moves when you kill brutally an opponent can be stuck in the wall or be disaligned between the player and the foe. So actually, we try to clean up all the bugs we can. Of course, even when players report some bug, we are very eagerly and happy to fix it.
Are you able to tell me a bit about the process of working with voice actors?
It was quite smooth, I must say, because we already worked with one of the voice actors in the past for the previous games, and we find it was a really good partner. So we asked him, we need more actors for these games. So he basically reported to us some other voice actors that made a test, of course, for the various characters, and then we chose we're choosing all the lineup for various characters. In Blackwind, there are no so many characters. There are basically some of the characters are played by the same voice actor, but in very specific ways and very specific times. So they basically never interact with each other. So, for example, the Raccoon's Queen, the queen of the aliens, is played by the same voice that plays the Blackwind AI. Or many different soldiers have the same voice actors as Jimmy's father, or even the bad guy, General Banger. Is played by the same actor. It was quite good because it changed his voice dramatically from one character to the other.
What was it like working on a video game during the pandemic?
It was quite a shock. We worked for a medium period of time. We worked remotely. The pandemic in Italy, we are in Italy, struck very hard. So we basically stayed at home with our own PCs, and all the network, the internet in Italy basically was overused by anyone, because anyone was trying to work remotely, so using Zoom or using Skype or whatever. And so there was basically no bandwidth. Even if we try to send, I made this animation, please try it, and just sending the files was a pain in the ass. in the latest period, we tried to work more closely. It was not just a total change of paradigm, because at least 3 of the team's members were already outside our office, because one is in Germany, and the other 2 are basically located elsewhere. But for us, the main developers of the game, that actually we talked very much. We exchange opinion, and if we have to change something on the run, we do it immediately. When we were separated and basically remote one from each other, it was quite complicated.
Hey, sorry to pop in here, but I want to let you know about today's sponsor, Hoffman's Woodstuffs. They specialize in the design and fabrication of custom furniture made from reclaimed or sustainably sourced hardwoods. They also make custom goods and gifts for any occasion. You can find them on Instagram at Hoffman's Woodstuffs, or you can go and check out their website, hoffmanswoodstuffs.net, using the link in the description. Let's get back into the interview. Are you able to tell me a bit about how you made the player feel stronger with each upgrade, but not making the upgrade so overpowered that the game would be too easy?
It actually happened that the player felt too strong in the beginning, but it just was just a matter of tuning the things. So we basically played and replayed the game many times, and every time we notated what was too strong, what was too weak, what needed to be more interesting, because we actually know there are some upgrades in the game that can be actually very cool to do, but they are presented in a way that might not be so interesting for the player. So if I told you that if you increase your dash speed and then you combine it with damage the enemy with dashing, it's not just as clear as it could be, but if you do it, it's devastating. And we try to render this kind of upgrades more appealable, because we lowered, for example, the price of the upgrades, so you can do it first, you can do it earlier, and if you try at least the first step of each power, you can easily understand how good it is if it fits your way of playing, because you can do a build all blades and hack and slash, or you can do a build that is all shooting from afar, or full of missiles, or full of special powers. It's up to the player. Developing what we call the black mode. It's a special attack mode when all the time slows down, and the play is basically ultra fast and ultra strong. All these upgrades can be basically mixed together, or you just can prefer one over the other. But we try to play the game many times. For example, we played the games one just upgrading just the black mode, or just the shooting, or just the hack and slash. So we had a general idea of how the powers can be upgraded without resulting too powerful, or even if, of course, you play to entertain yourself. So it's not a matter of being a challenge at all costs. It must be fun. So if you feel a bit overpowered, especially in the end, it's good because you're basically enjoying it.
Which parts of the game did you need to put the most time and effort into to get just the way you wanted it?
Hard to say. A good question. Maybe the finishers, because we actually developed a system when you can do actually whatever you want. But the limits in this case were our imagination, because once you have tried detaching an arm from the enemy and stabbing the enemy with its own arm, or when you crush an alien with your feet and basically destroying on the ground, or when you do anything else, every time we needed to invent something that was cool to see, but not a repetition in comparison of what we have already. It was quite challenging because there are a certain number of finisher moves in the game, so it was hard to be not repetitive.
Were there any interesting ideas that were talked about at one point but just ended up getting cut from the game?
Where to start from? Yes, even the game took us basically nearly 2 years. We wanted to add the ability to strip weapons from the enemies and using the enemy dropping a chain gun, and you can pick up the chain gun and use it at least until there are bullets to fire. Or using some bosses, kind of bosses we would like to add, but we have to cut it because of the time. And also the original story was a bit changed because there has should be a new character, alien character that should have played a certain role. It was basically changed with something different. We actually are pleased and happy with what we have now. But the original ideas maybe required too much effort or too much time.
How did the scope of Blackwind change from your first original idea to what you have now?
The original idea was very close to what we have now. Yeah. Even if we are basically a bit more happier than we were than when we thought it could be at the very beginning. The game for us is a little better than when we thought it originally. Basically, also working with other people gave us new ideas and new ways to do the same things but better.
What was the biggest design challenge you faced while working on Blackwind?
If you mean design in terms of graphic design, it was giving the main character a cool look. We basically tried to gather any references from what we like and what could be suitable for the role. Like we basically merged together things like Halo and Gundam and Transformers to have the look of the battle frame, because the battle frame needs to be more futuristic than the other battle frames you've seen in the game. Because it's a prototype, it does not have to look too army-like, or it needs to be something new. So I think it was the biggest challenge. In terms of the gameplay, I don't know if there were actual hard challenges. Oh yes, the puzzle. Luckily, we had one of the team members, Marco, was very skilled with thinking of very hard puzzle. Also, we had to to calm it down. Okay, it's too hard. Please make it a bit lighter, a bit easier to solve.
Do you have plans to make a sequel or add more story content to the game?
Add more story, because story content it could be really hard because of how the story is made. For a sequel, we basically need to know how the games will perform in terms of how many people will buy the game, will try the game, or how happy it would be or not happy. I don't know. We are open now to any chance. We would like, of course, we would be very happy to do a sequel.
We can include in the sequel, or we had to cut from
just
game.
Just to include in the sequel all the ideas, all the things that were cut in main game.
Looking back now, what do you wish you could have done differently?
Maybe the way tutorials are shown to the player. Because we took a look at some YouTube videos of people playing Blackwind, and some of them basically just ignore the tutorial on screen. Because in our previous game, we had blocking tutorials that block the actions. Okay, you must do these things right now this way. Someone criticized this kind of tutorial because I don't want the action to be blocked. Okay, so in Blackwind we made no blocking tutorial at all. But also with this new kind of tutorials, we saw people don't look at tutorials, so basically skipped entire features. So we saw people playing the game without shooting a single missiles or without upgrading. It's quite strange. Or basically just because it was not stopped when the new feature comes into play. Maybe in the next title we'll do a mix between the two things. We'll make sure that some very important tutorial will be blocking.
What was the biggest lesson that you've learned from working on Blackwind?
You cannot please every player.
Exactly.
Because it's basically impossible to do one thing and the exact opposite. We saw people complaining about one thing and the opposite things at the same time. Another person that complained of the exact opposite. So I don't know. I think it's an issue that basically any game can have, especially if you dig into a special genre like hack and slash. So hack and slash can be quite different. It's not just having a first-person shooter. First-person shooter, you basically do one thing and you already have a clear idea of what to do. While hack and slash can mean many things. So you can have hack and slash when you hack and slash and stop, or you can have hack and slash and puzzle and platforming or no platforming and shooting or no shooting. So mixing all the things together, I don't know if maybe someone can like it, someone can't. So basically, pleasing all the players is basically impossible.
What would be your biggest piece of advice to newer game devs trying to get their first game made?
I'd like to be so wise to give you an advice, such an advice. The first game, try not to do your final game as a first game, but basically a 2B project. Yes, start with something simple, or you can actually do from the start to the end, instead of thinking too big and having something you can't finish or you can't actually do the way you want or the way the players will want. We learned from the previous games and this one and in Blackwind as well that if you do a certain kind of genre of game, you have to do that game the way the people see that genre. There is a masterpiece in that genre. You have to basically copy as close as you can that masterpiece, because people basically will want you to do the exact things, or at least the very important aspects of that game.
What's next for you? What are you working on now?
Oh, well, we are, of course, supporting Blackwind if it needs more patches or more fixes. And we are pre-production something for a new game. It would be something a bit different. It's more an adventure game. It's set in a fantasy / sci-fi settings. It's not actual fantasy. It's not actual sci-fi. It's something a bit more original. We started basically a few weeks ago, so it's really early to talk about new game. But we are collecting ideas and basically prototyping something and studying for the concepts and more the graphics. We have and all not already started the actual production.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been great interviewing you.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
And that's how today's episode went down. I want to thank you so much for listening to today's interview. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on with Game Design Hour, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter at Game Design Hour. Today's episode was sponsored by Hoffman's Woodstuffs. They specialize in the design and fabrication of custom furniture made from reclaimed or sustainably sourced hardwoods. They also make custom goods and gifts for any occasion. You can find them on Instagram at Hoffman's Woodstuffs, or you can check out their website, hoffmanswoodstuffs.net, by using the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.